Hi everybody, Gisele Grenier here from ArtPlace.ca. I just finished a page for one of the Doug 2013 pieces, and it was basically called Unlikely Allies, a trip to an imaginary zoo. And it was really fun and cute. I thought, oh. And then I was going to do a portrait page. And I thought, nah, let's stick with animals because now I'm into the animal zone. And although this might not be so suitable for young kids to do, but it would be, I'm going to kind of give you an idea how young kids can do this without having to have a lot of painting experience. Tell us, I haven't seen any yet, and the commercials aren't as visible anymore on TV, but I had the calendar from 2 years ago, and I found this, I cut this out. Absolutely love this. So what I want to do, I want to do a painting of this in this type of format, and I want flowers to be growing up, and I'm going to put like a log here, so he's kind of peeking over the log and just in his eyes, making sure that the pupils are up high to make it look like he's looking up at the flowers. Then, but for the shape, you know, you can turn around and you can just basically draw an outline of the shape for that. If you're not into painting, or if you're not, my professional background is a portraiture artist of people and pets, wildlife included, and so this is second nature to me. But I'm going to do this in a format where, as long as you can paint, then you should be able to do this. For young kids, what I'm going to recommend that you do is whatever background you choose. If you're working with the book of backgrounds, in the supply list and up on the screen, the actual video that this was created in will be displayed. This was basically how to fix a page that I don't like, and I will be modifying this page full of texture, which is what inspired me by the lines. Collage this down. Just use some decoupage. Use some decoupage matte medium, but if you're using an actual calendar base, you can take sandpaper. Okay, now do this outside, wear a dust mask, so you don't inhale, but lightly sand it just a little bit, and then use decoupage to adhere it down. Then another layer of decoupage, and then you can actually take paint and paint right over this, which will be really, really easy for youngsters, and if you're not into painting animals, or if you don't have enough experience painting animals. And what I'm going to do is we're going to modify the background first. I'm going to trace the outline for this, because when I do a pet portrait or even a wildlife portrait, it takes me hours because I'm precise on my measurements. So one of the challenges with this is going to be it's more of a freestyle thing. So, but if you don't have a cute little image like this, just go on the internet, go to Morguefile, MORGUEFILE.com, Morguefile, or even paint my photo. I think it's ning.paintmyphoto or something like that. Paintmyphoto.com. Paint My Photo and Morguefile, you're allowed to use their photos without paying a fee to create artwork and stuff like that. So you can find something there that you like, but just something where it's, stop and smell the roses type of thing. Although I don't like roses, but anyways, that's just me. All the supplies will be listed at the end of the video, and because this is a very textured and glossy thing, I'm not going to use traditions. I'm going to use Americana multi-surface satins. I have a wide range of colors, but the colors I actually do use will be listed at the end of the video. Okay, so I've got a whole wide line. I'm going to call them out to you. I'm planning on using black tie, vanilla shake, coffee bean, brown sugar, muted gold, orange sherbet, flamingo, pink Cadillac, eggplant, lavender fields, sky blue, green beret, and leprechaun. Because these paints don't have pigment numbers on them or opacities or anything like that, I use more of these paints because a lot of it's an experiment on mixing the colors. That's why I like the traditions, because I was formerly trained in color theory and color mixing, so that's easy. But using pre-mixed colors, you're doing everything by sight. So I'm using a lot more colors, and on top of that, not everybody is interested in color theory, so let's just have fun with this. Brush, it doesn't really matter, but I'm thinking now I'm not going to use that brush. I'm going to use my Bristle Bright. So it doesn't really matter about the background you use because we're going to be modifying it. So I've got Vanilla Shakeout in Sky Blue, and I'm just going to get that in there, and it's going to take me a couple of layers because what I'm looking for is basically a sky, but because there's so much red in here, the base will turn purple. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to make the colors where there'll be enough contrast. That's why I picked the eggplant and lavender fields and flamingo and pink Cadillac for the flowers, so they would have some nice contrast. I will be working in the second layer with a bit of formal training is to make the sky dark at the top and then working light as we go down. I don't want to lose these lines, so I'm going to make sure that it stays transparent enough that I keep that. Now, if whatever's on your back page, if it's important, put a piece of wax paper, parchment paper, and tape it along the edges, okay, to protect this page. If it's not important, then don't worry about it. To me, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to, once I get a base down, I'm just going to follow the lines. And I did these with the texture tools. The DecoArt, there were some really, really cool texture tools. Making sure I follow, because these are going to add to the flowers. And because there's so much texture, I don't want to use my expensive brushes like my Majestic or my Aquilons. For fun stuff, the soft grips are perfect. And they're durable enough. I mangled the heck out of this brush. It's gone down by, I think, about 1/8 of an inch with how rough I am with it, but it's still fine. Okay, I'm going to hit this with the heat gun to dry it. And it doesn't take long to dry. But these paints are great because they stick to everything. So this piece actually would be a nice piece for your home as well. So try it on in a book of background first, and then basically you call this a post shot, which is like a quick study painting, and go from there. My intention is to keep this project under an hour, and it's to basically get people to really try art because we're all so busy and stuff like that. Now, if you have the ability of time, let this dry for, depending on your environment, for a couple of hours once the whole piece is finished before you frame it or whatever. So I'm going to come in now with just Sky Blue. Actually, let me reach over and touch in just a bit of Bluebird. Just a bit of Bluebird. These paints you have to shake really, really well because the binder and the pigments separate if you don't shake them really, really well. I was taking Mia for a walk this morning, and she met, there's a doggy friend of hers that we haven't seen in about 2 months. His name's Oliver, and he's a puppy, and he was, boy, is he grown. And we let them play in the park, and I don't take Mia off leash, but my arm's a little bit sore. Now, this is the backside. So I'm going to start with the Bluebird and a bit of the Sky Blue. Dark at the top, and then work my way down to light. And for those of you that have taken my landscape classes, you'll say, oh, why aren't we doing our X strokes? No, we don't need to do that formal stuff. We want to stick with these lines. We don't need to make crisscross strokes for the gradation. All we're looking for now is just to create a little bit of depth. dark at the top and come down. You want to put some clouds in there, you can. Not totally necessary. I want to work with the flowers. And then sky blue on the bottom and work it up the opposite way. And where they meet in the middle, you should have a nice blend because the paint will stay wet long enough. And don't make the bottom too dark. Make the bottom light enough for contrast. And don't have a straight line, kind of have it kind of wispy. Have it really nice and just flowing. This is actually looking really, really nice. And this will stay with the vision of the lines for the flowers, for the stems. Okay, I'm going to put that brush in water. Now I'm just going to clean up my area here, clean up this paint, and then we'll start working on the outline of the cub. So we're all dry. I put out all the colors and I lay them out in a certain way that way if they mix into each other it doesn't really matter. So black tie, vanilla shake, coffee bean, I had an accident with brown sugar, muted gold, orange sherbet, pink flamingo, pink Cadillac, eggplant, lavender, bluebird, sky blue, green beret, and leprechaun. I put them out, may not use them, I don't know. So if you're going to paint right on top of this, like I explained, you're going to be collaging this right to the piece and then you can paint on top of it. I'm actually going to be painting right on here, but let's just get a general shape. And to do the general shape, well, it's always great to use a pencil. These are watercolor sketch pencils from Royal and Langnickel. These are great because they dissolve. And Joe was just coming in to check. He's not here to direct me this time. So he asked me what I was doing, and I was telling him, and he goes, "You've got grandiose ideas, thinking you're going to do that in an hour." Well, I got to prove him wrong now. But I'm not going to diminish the quality of the piece. Okay, so you can see, I'm not going to worry about the corner details here. Okay. One of the reasons why when you're working with something really sticky like this, which is really good to sand it, because between the coating here and the coating on here, this isn't 100% dry yet. I just don't have that time. That's why it's great to do some sanding to make sure there's something to adhere to. Okay, so if you're going to collage this down, you can. I want to paint the log first. So the log, I'm just going to work with just a round brush, and I'm going to, with that, because I want to put enough contrast between the cub, and I'm going to work with black tie with a little bit of coffee bean. And let's just paint that in here. And every time that I load my brush, I go to an alternate color, which will make some nice mixes. The challenge on this for me is the texture in here somewhat works against me. Because with a log I want to go this way, but the texture is going this way. So just go with the flow if you created the background the same way I did. Okay. Now, with the outline that's here, I'm going to go slightly higher because I want to make sure the fur just goes over a little bit. And I already thought of a project for this. A lot of the pieces that I do are great for home decor. Doing them in a journal is a great place to experiment. And with a book of backgrounds, you can't go wrong. Okay, and just going to rinse that paint out of my brush. So it was black tie and coffee bean. I'm just going to move these out of the way. And now I'm going to come in, let's go with the muted gold, wet on wet. And we're just going to drag an irregular drag, which will make it look like a little bit of contrast. Okay, just a little bit. Wipe the brush and then kind of pity pad up, down, diagonal, just to pity pad that paint in there. I'm going to go back with a bit of coffee bean right in the bottom, a little bit of black tie. And right around here it's going to be quite dark. So I might as well fit that in now. This is where the mouth is. Right in the middle. It's going to be very, very dark. There we go. So while that dries, we can plan on basing everything here. So why don't we just block everything in? I'm just looking at the best color for this. Why don't we just block everything in with brown sugar? And try to keep, I'm just going slightly past the pencil line. See what I'm kind of jiggy-jagging? So that way it doesn't look like a, you don't want this, a perfect circle. You don't want that. What you want is that. Creates the irregular line. Let me get a really good close-up. You want the irregular lines, irregular strokes. Okay, so what you don't want is that. You don't want that. What you want is this. Okay, same thing with the ears, just jiggy-jaggy. And I'm just using a number 8 round brush for this. And this is a brush that I use for a lot of rough work. Although it doesn't come to a perfect point, it's great for stuff like this. The other number 8 brush I have for perfect point, I don't use it for stuff like this. Okay. In here though, you can, and inside, don't paint like this. Perfect strokes like that. Don't do that. Do this. It's animal fur, so you want to try to take every opportunity to create additional texture. And every time you go in with different paints, you get different values. Some paint will be thicker, in some areas it'll be thinner, and that creates the great texture. And some of the where the blue is showing through, it's not terribly important. In here, same thing. Push up, 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 and then up a little bit higher. This is where the paws are. Okay. But see, the pencil just dissolves. It's amazing. Here as well, now this is where the mouth is, so we're just going to just slightly overlap just a little bit. And look at the reference photo to do this. I will be providing a line drawing for this, but if you have an actual photo, that would be great. Morgue File is amazing for stuff like this. They have some brilliant, and Paint My Photo. I have to get, I'll have the actual proper link at the end of the video. I think it's paintmyphoto.com, which is a Ning website. I'm not sure. Up, up, up. And this video, I will not be speeding up any of the video because it is a portraiture. Even if it's a rough portraiture, I want to include all details. So if you're an advanced painter, you can always fast forward the video. And just Just do here, and I'm inspired now to create the place where I was getting my plexiglass. They went out of business, and that's why I stopped doing a lot of my reverse glass designs, but this would actually look really good as a reverse glass piece. There we go. Okay, so you got a good close-up there seeing all the texture. And while this is wet, now I'm going to take my little photo, I'm going to kind of put them right in front here. I'm going to go into some coffee bean, and I'm just going to pity pad that. This is where the placement of the ears are going to, the inside of the ears, right in here. Now you're going to have a line drawing to follow, so you don't have to worry about knowing the exact placement. Now it's a bit shiny. If you're doing this wet on wet and you need to retrace the line drawing on top of this here, wait for it to be completely dry. We're not doing a realistic portrait here. We're just doing a fun impressionistic painting. That's what I was trained in, is impressionism. Except the teachers in art school where they wanted me to do more realistic stuff. See how just keeping it fun, loose. And I'm thinking in my mind, oh, traditions. Oh, okay, raw umber, burnt umber, mix that and just... and you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to do the flowers first. Okay, black, and I'm just going to come in here, smack dab in the middle, and make the line. This is for the mouth. We're just going to let that sit there, like that, just as a placeholder. And now we're going to let this dry. We're going to work on the flowers. Now, flowers should have been done first, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to take Leprechaun. Oh, I'm going to go to a different brush. Let me go into my number 4, Leprechaun, and I'm not diluting these with water whatsoever. And you can come in here and just get some lines set up for the flowers. These are the stems. Make them different heights. Okay. That's all right. And once you've got the height placement, come in again with a bit more paint. We'll be able to take some brown and go over the flower stem, so don't worry. Just go back over. Good amount of paint in there. Don't forget, in the background that I'm working on, there's texture done with the texture tool, so I'm having to make sure that all the paint goes right into all the pores of the texture. You could make this a dual project with a child or a young person. They can do the flowers, you can do the tiger. But kids are amazing artists when they start, because they don't care about what other people think. The challenge is keeping that child mentality when creating art to keep everything fun. I have some art pieces that Ava created, and I couldn't create stuff like that. Her stuff is so innocent and free and fun, it just blows me away. Do I want to put a little flower right here? Sure, why not? Let's put a little flower right here. Okay, just blot the brush. Okay, go in now into the dark green, and I can come in now and just on one side, just come in with a bit of a darker color, but do it the same on all the stems, which means the right side is what's going to be shaded. But again, if you just do it on both sides, who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is starting to dry a little bit. Oops, that's going to be way too much paint. If it's too much paint, again, doesn't matter. I got mega texture here. And if the texture is really causing you grief, you can always go back over with the light green. I'll have to go back over that one. That one turned out nice. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a 1 hour video. I don't think so. Well, we'll see. I'm going to go into emerald now, back into emerald, wet on wet, and just go back over again. Because once we do this, we won't have to touch the stems again, so might as well just finish them now. It gives the base coat for the tiger, the cub, a little bit of time. It's a lion, not a tiger. If you haven't seen it yet, if you go to my website, this one won't be on ArtPlace. It'll be on petportraitdrawing.com. I've got a video there called The Cub and I, and it's my visit to a zoo where I actually got to interact with a little lion cub and a tiger cub, and that was an experience I will never, ever, ever forget. Come in again with the dark green, and just gonna, there's some heavy, 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 heavy texture here. Just gonna put a bit more paint. You may not need to do this, which is fine. Everybody's backgrounds are going to be different. There we go. There are other backgrounds in the book of backgrounds that I could have used for this. It would have been much easier, but it's the fun. The fun part is just using something that's totally out of the norm. That's why this series is called Doing Our Unusual Genre, something different. And with everything that's happening with climate change and that, most people are paying particularly more attention to wildlife conservation. Here we go. You could actually even make those trees if you wanted to. We can block these in now. Let's go with, depends on what kind of flowers you want to make for these. I can still take with the number 4. Do I want to go with something else? A filbert brush would be really, really good. Oh, do I have one handy? Yes, I do. I'm going to use a filbert brush. And you can block the colors in. So I'm going to block them first in with Vanilla Shake. And I'm just going to basically just touch, push, lift. They're not going to be specific to a shape or a style, just whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can make them big, you can make them small. Touch, push, lift. And we're going to dot the centers. We're going to be covering these up with the pinks and the purples. This is basically a blocking of the color. We're basically preparing them. Because if you paint the pinks over the blues, you'll get more purples, and the purples over the blue, you'll get something lighter. Which doesn't really matter. Depending on what you've done, it doesn't matter. Touch, push, lift, touch, push, lift, touch, push, lift, touch, push, lift. That's cute. We'll just do a 5 here. And if you want to make some a little bit more detailed, you can do that. Just stick with the touch push lift. I want to make my petals a little bit more irregular shape. Gives them some oomph. And if you're a decorative painter, you can do your floating if you want, but that's not the purpose of this project. It's just to do something whimsical. This one needs a little one here. There we go. Okay. Ooh, 6. I hate even numbers. Okay. We are at the point now where we need to have, we can let the flowers dry, but we need this to dry. The middle doesn't really matter at this point. This is a little bit tacky. So let's let this dry, and then we'll start working out some blocking details for the cub. We'll get a placement for the eyes. If you want to do it with pencil first, that's fine. I'm going to go with an actual graphite pencil. I'm just going to use a 2B. And coming in here now, this is where it's important about the placement right in the middle of where the mouth is and the ears. What I want to do is think of like a triangle. Okay, so think of a triangle here, and where I want the eyes are going to be sort of like, if the triangle is here, like so, okay, I'm going to make the eyes, think of this position, right about here. Okay, so not down here, not up here, so right along that triangle, okay, and right here. So it's kind of like in the middle, right in here. Okay, so let's, if you want to take that, and we're just gonna make a line, and same thing here, you can do that, and you can make a line, which is roughly where the pupil's going to be. I think I may have to go with, so you can see, I don't think you can see that. Yeah, I'll just do it this one. And let me go to the medium. Let me sharpen this for a sec. Watch your ears. Okay. I just went with the medium finish. The middle of the mouth is here, so let's make a kind of like a bowl, like so. Okay, and let's just make a little lid on the bowl. So we have here like so, and then just up a little bit up here. Oh, these pencils are amazing on the multi-surface satins. This comes down, now the mouth is going to come around this way, so let's get that sketch in here, like the two like happy faces, like so. Okay, now see where this came up like this? If you picture straight up, and that's going to be roughly the middle of the eye, so we're in the right spot. This one's a little bit too far, so let's just go like this. There we go. And then the nose, so think of straight up here, so we're just going to go a little bit off, almost like a rough triangle. These are going to dissolve, so don't worry. Alright, and let's color those in. And these are great because on this multi-surface satin, you can wipe these off with water. So we have the pupil in there, and now with the pupil in there, let's do a circle, but let's make the circle more circly on the bottom. So we're going to come right here like this. I have a ton of texture in here, so this is really challenging for me because I'm going bump and bump and bump, and I can't get a perfect circle. I'm having to, because of all this texture. And let's make a little triangle right in here. Let's make a little triangle right in here. And And we're going to have a lot of what I call the eyeshadow. A lot of eyeshadow. And we're going to make a little triangle right here. So think of, you got the triangle pointing this way. Now we're going to have a little triangle here. And we're going to have a little triangle here. This is too much air. What I call the air, it's the space around something, but that's okay. It'll be easier with the paint. If you're working on something this textured, the pencil is actually going in and out. Come in, and then it meets up with the nose, like so. Okay? Right where the eye is, just make a little rough circle. Right, like so. This is just kind of like the face. This circle here should be coming up right in the middle of the eye. Then here as well, just another little half circle. This is sort of like the fur around the face. And there's a little bit of fur here. I'm not too worried about that. We can freehand this part. For the paws, through every bumple, we can make a little, and that one goes off here, so I'm not going to worry about that. And where the bumple is, let's see, we have here, we have here, 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 and the fur, so his face, so this one's easy. Where his face comes down like this, or her face, that's where the fur change is going to be. So this is easy at this point. So we have a, I wonder if I can actually fudge this one here. There we go. Okay, so that's where we're at with this. And once you have that drawing in place, we can start now with adding in some of our colors. I'm going to go with these little brushes here. Now, if you don't have these, that's fine. Don't worry. And I'm going to be trying these. I'm not sure if they're going to work. These are almost like little mini mops. And then I also have a number 10 filbert. So I'm going to try these again. I'm not sure if they're going to work. They may not be strong enough. I may just end up doing the whole thing with a round brush. And I've never done a animal portrait with these colors before, so it should be interesting. What I want to do is I want to get my darkest darks in there, so I know the ears need to be a little bit darker. Dry brush into these paints, and now I'm just going to touch and just kind of feather out. Everything's going to be like a dry brush. But keep the strokes really, really soft. So there's not going to be any hard edges at this point. Hard edges meaning this, a solid line of paint. Everything's going to be like that. Soft, soft, soft. Now, if you're new to painting animals, I mean, this is a fine project to work on. Don't use a textured background because that's a challenge right there. Use something that's relatively flat. This one would have been fine, just a little bit. But I thought this background was actually kind of cool. I liked the lines. The color didn't speak to me, it was the lines. And then with the same brush now, we're just going to fill in the nose. I'm going to go to little number 2 shader. That filbert was just a little too large. You'll need to do 2 coats on everything. And just fill that in. If you look at it just in the form of shapes, it's much easier to work with. It's also much easier to work with if you work with the piece upside down. And you may be saying upside down. Well, that's because it's your right brain working and not your logical side. Just going to outline a little bit here. Very thin, rough. Nothing too heavy duty. I made this too big. So let's just wipe that down. We can cover that with paint. wrong line. There we go. I am usually pretty fussy when I do portraits. People and pets, doesn't matter. So I'm going to really try to keep this one fun so I don't get too caught up in details. And I'm going to be using my clock to, if you get stuck on details, it stops being fun. And for those of you who have been following me, you're probably wondering, she hasn't done the eyes yet. She always does the eyes first. Well, here, yeah, I know. Okay. Pupil. I could actually, I was contemplating just using the Americana writer and just blobbing. Just blobbing the color, the black in there, which would have worked beautifully because it's a perfect circle. The pupil in this piece is a perfect circle. That's actually not too bad. Not too bad at all. And anytime I say not too bad, I always ruin it. There we go. And I'm going to rinse that brush out. Then I'm going to go to my little, where's my little round brush? Oh, this one here. And I'm going to go into, again, black tie. Get the eyeliner in there. The blue I'm going to paint after, because the blue is going to need a couple of coats. And the black we can cover up in a final coat. We will have to do a little bit of layering in this. So if I had to do this again, I would not do it on a textured background like this. It's really fussing with me. You can make it look like texture without having physical texture in it. I just want to try to keep this for under an hour for you guys, and I don't think it's going to happen. With this, the inspiration for this one is when I was on the walk this morning with Mia, and we saw Oliver, the dog that we haven't seen in a while, and how he's grown so far. Is I could not believe how much time has gone by, and my thought is now is that, holy smokes, the summer is gone. We're in the middle of September. Tomorrow is 9/11, anniversary for 9/11, and Mia's birthday is on the 12th. Our classes start up. Mia's intermediate dog training classes start on Saturday. My God, like, where's the time gone? So, and then a closing statement for one of the artists that I absolutely treasure, Gary Jenkins, and he's known for his flower paintings, him and his wife, Catherine. And he usually stops at the end when he's, stop and smell the roses, and sometimes it'll stop and smell the chrysanthemum, smell, all these different things. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. If, stop and smell the roses, because before you know it, it's too late, and time is not something you can get back. So the idea of the tiger, this is I keep calling it a tiger cub, the lion cub is a cub. Stop and smell the flowers. Time goes by so quickly. Grandkids are growing up so fast. Joe's noticing a little bit of gray, which is, not impressing him at all. I think, holy smokes, I'm like, other than, I've got a really neat hairstyle where I'm all gray except the back part of the hair by my neck, and that's black. So I've got a really cool, I would cost me a fortune to have my hair dyed that way, but I'm all gray, salt and pepper. Okay, liking that. I need a little bit more eyeshadow on this one here, because I'm going to be bringing some brown up, which is going to cover it. So I want to deepen this a little bit more. Beauty, 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 beauty. So let's now, let me think. Let me get with that little mini mop again, little mini brush, and let's see if we can go into a little bit of the coffee bean. And actually, it's not bad on its side, and I'm just going to start, you know, doing a little touch, push, lift here, and I'm just dry brushing. The brush was wet, so I have to make sure it's really dry, and you're just basically touch, push, lift, following the direction, and this creates the fur. Now remember, typically a pet portrait or an animal portrait takes hours to do, so we're doing this in a short amount of time, covering the blue, any base showing. Vary the pressure, vary the strokes. Then when we come in with the lighter color, it's going to create some really nice highlight. Choppy, short choppy. Short choppy is like this. Long choppy is like this. Turn the brush to get some nice lines. If you use a round brush, that's fine, but it's going to take a little bit longer. We are now looking for the texture, the impression of texture with the fur. We have texture in the background, physical texture. Now we're creating the texture of the fur. In the little pawpaws, the fur is going downwards. So you make the stroke the same way, downwards. Making sure you cover any blue parts from the base. You don't have to cover the brown, the light brown underneath, just cover any blue. Keep it rough. When I was learning portraiture art, there were these brushes you could use, a rake and combs and all this stuff, and yeah, they do. They're ones that have they're trimmed, and yeah, they do work great. It's just the portraits take so long with that, doing it that way. And I learned, although not for portrait art, but I learned from Jerry Yarnell, using regular standard brushes in a different way, that you'll get the same, if not better, effects. Fur is not about seeing each individual hair, unless you want to create a painting that's in high def. If you're into hyper-realism art, you're probably not watching this video. But making art is about putting your spirit and energy into the art. Then this is just my personal opinion, not the opinion of the network. Art shouldn't be like a photograph. That just tells me that, yeah, you can spend hours painting something to look like a photograph. Have fun with color and shape and stuff like that. Graphite drawings for commissions are a different story. Those I do quite realistic, but they are still a little bit, you know, there is some little bit of impressionism in there with some free-flowing stuff. But if I get a customer saying they want a portrait done and they want it to look like a photograph, I say, sorry, not my style. Most people know what my style is. And now, creating the stroke upwards, you're going to go from inside and you're going to work out. So, and then from here, you're going to do the same thing. Actually, you're going to work from outside, then you're going to work inside. So, outside, and you're going to work in, and as you go in, you're going to be overlapping the strokes. Okay, like so. So, I'm going to do this half here. I'm not going to bother doing this part because this is quite light. I'm going to be doing this inside part here, and then what we'll do is we'll put on some music, and then I'll do the other half because it's the exact same way. Okay? And then I'll just fill this in like so. Okay, just get some nice texture in there. This part here, we're going to leave this the way it is because this is very, very light. So I'm just working out the dark areas here. Okay, so let's put some music on and I'll continue working on the rest of the face. The nose I'm just kind of pity-patting because it's very, very short fur. And up here I ended up getting a little bit of black in there, which is fine. I'm not worried about that. Once you've got a good base in there, before I turn this piece upside down because it's easier for me to push the strokes away. If I'm pulling the strokes towards me, my hand tends to get sore here, so I like pushing the strokes away from me. I should have explained that in the beginning. Now, as you're painting, any areas that are darker, come in with a second layer of color. It'll just help you. And I like it when the brush bristles are facing that way because the fur is going that way. I have the brush do a lot of the work for me. It makes it easier that way. Up here, it's dark. There's kind of random patterns in the little lion's fur. I'm going to go back and now load black in my brush again, right in the middle. Just a little bit in here. It is fairly dark. You need dark to show light. Okay. And I put that brush in water. I'm going to get my little brush and I'm just going to go into black again. And now I'm just going to refine. It's still a little bit wet. Just going to refine this. See, for me to do this way, I'm having to do this to get a nice clean edge. So with the brush facing outwards, it's so much easier. If you like to paint upside down, if you like to paint sideways, if you like to paint laying on your back, do whatever you have to do as long as you're having fun doing it. I'm going to need to bring a little bit of, I'm going to go into a little bit of brown sugar, and I'm just going to touch a little bit of brown sugar in here just to reshape this. Right in here, just a bit of a reshape. There we go. Cool. You already see something happening here. While we're here, let's take, oh, look at the colors, how they mix together. Go into some sky blue and paint the iris. If you get some paint over the black, don't worry, because we can always, we're going to be coming back in anyways to redefine the pupil. Don't worry about that. If you get it right on the first shot, that's fine. But if you're painting on something textured like I am, you will not get a perfect stroke. I've got a wiggly divot right in here. The paint still isn't quite dry yet. Drying time is a factor with this piece if you're using the multi-surface satins. So keep that in mind when you're choosing your paints. Color-wise, they match very closely to the pre-made, the Americana colors. So you'll be able to easily match up the colors for that. So if you don't have the multi-surface satins, you can create this piece as well on just using regular craft paint. I'm just going to get a little bit of a better line here. It'll be a lot easier when it comes time to do the pupil. Black covers up blue so much easier than blue covering up black. So I'm going to get it done in this step, which will give me a good amount of drying time. I'm going to come in with black tie. I got a little bit of blue in there. That's fine. I don't want to lose my shape here. I don't want to lose my shape here. Believe it or not, the eyes really should be, and this is where my formal teaching comes into play, the eyes should be done first and foremost to finish. You know, you can leave the highlight out because sometimes you'll end up covering that. But the eye, your painting will not look right if the eyes aren't done right. I just want to get that shape in there because now like pretending it's dry, I can just come in and reshape the pupil. I can even use the end of the paintbrush and just dot and circle. You can't see what I'm doing though, but you can make a really, really good circle that way. There we go. Now we have to, I'm going to let that dry for a bit. I'm going to take the heat gun to that, let it dry. Then we're going to come in and start with some details. When you're working the details, you can do the details. Let's pick this part here. You can work the details. I'm going to take some gold, and just to show you, you can prepare a brush for this, and you can, with the filbert, I'm going to have to take a little bit of white in that. And with a filbert, it creates a really, really pretty stroke. Let me get a close up. I don't know how close I'll be able to get before the camera says, ah! You'll have to adjust your colors based on what you're using. Okay, so I'm using a little bit more of the vanilla shake. I try to avoid using titanium white because it'll be so strong, because there really isn't any white other than the highlight in the eye. There really isn't any white. But see how you create some pretty fur? This part here is going to take quite long to do, so I'm going to get it started, and then we'll put some music on and then show you again. I got black in my brush. The minute you get another color contaminated, wipe your brush and create a new mix. Also remember that these paints will dry a little bit darker. And when freshly loading a brush, go inside a bit to determine the color. I need a bit more gold. Here we go. And then you can come in. You don't want to cover everything opaque, because you want to let some of that underlying color show through, and that's what creates the layers of fur. When you're creating the fur in here, we're going to have to do 2 layers of that. Like when this is dry, you're going to be doing the layers like this. Okay? Then when you've painted all this in, then you're going to take the black and you're going to do the same thing to bring some black into that. Okay? You see where I'm going? So here, it's easy. I can bring the strokes out this way. So try to visualize everything from the nose goes outwards. The paws come in. So when it comes to the paws, I don't like pulling the strokes in this way. I can turn this upside down, and I can get some soft strokes like this. The strokes are so small, so make sure they're really, really short and choppy. And it's whiter here. Then it gets a little bit more on the gold side. So make sure you overlap them to get realistic strokes. Let some of the underneath color show through, which will add the natural changes in the fur color. Okay, see what I'm doing? And as it gets darker, just space your strokes out just a little bit wider, like so. Okay. When that dries, then I can come over with another layer. That might be a little bit too white, but as I say, I want to avoid using any type of white whatsoever. So that's why I'm sticking with the muted gold color and just using vanilla shake, because it's an off-white, but it is still a little bit white. Okay, so short choppy strokes, and very, you know, if you come to a part where it's darker fur, come into a darker color, darken your stroke a little bit, and go from there. So you're varying the colors. I'm going to let this dry for a bit. I want to touch in some of the flowers. So that's basically that, because once I come in to do this, I'm just going to basically put background music, because when you're doing the fur, other than the nose, which is pity pad, the fur is the same throughout the whole piece. Flower, 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 flower power. Number 4 round. I'm going to go with the darker color, so dark pink. And I can just go right over. I don't think I did this with the pink, or with this brush, did I? I think I did that with the number 8. Did I do that with the number 8 round? Yeah, I did. Which is no big deal. So now it's just basically just coming in and just going back over, letting some of that white show. It's no big deal. Just looks like a highlight on the end. I don't think I did it with this brush either. This doesn't feel right. With the filbert maybe? And just paint that in. You can really see the texture showing through now. I want to make that purple. Let me make the outside one pink, and I'm just going to go over with the purple. This is really, you can really see the texture now. The paint is dried up a little bit on the palette, making it nice and thick. I do not want to, under any circumstances at this point, want to use water in my paints. I would rather bring out some fresh paint. Let's make this one purple. Really going to have to paint that in with some thicker strokes. Thicker strokes. There's a bit of pink in my brush.